You're listening to Mind, Body, Home with your host, Sarah Ann. What happens when you leave a dream career? Not because it wasn't working, but because something deeper was calling. My guest today is Robert Bean, co-founder of Impact, a cinematic storytelling studio that creates character-driven films for brands in the wellness, design, and hospitality space, including luxury icons like the Four Seasons. But this conversation is so much more than business. It's about navigating the inner journey that often comes with pivoting paths. We talk about self-worth, creative burnout, intuitive guidance, and the quiet moments that invite us to course correct, not with urgency, but with clarity. For both Robert and myself, the decision to evolve our work didn't come through crisis. It came through stillness, a subtle discomfort, a knowing that we were being pulled in a new direction, and that's the nudge I want you to pay attention to. If you've ever felt off course, even if everything looks fine from the outside, I hope this episode reminds you that you are not lost. You are listening. And often, that's the first step in aligning with something more meaningful. Whether you're a founder, a creative, or simply someone navigating transition, this episode invites you to honor your own unfolding and to remember your story is your greatest differentiator. And when you learn how to trust it, everything changes. And if you're someone who's ever said, I don't know what my purpose is, I'll leave you with this reframe shared by Dr. Caroline Leaf. Your purpose is not the thing you do. It's the thing that happens in others when you do what you do. That ripple effect is your gift. This conversation is an invitation to reconnect with that ripple and to trust the evolution that's unfolding in you. Please enjoy today's conversation with guest Robert Bean of Impact. Robert, thank you for joining me today on the Mind, Body, Home podcast. I'm really excited to chat with you. And so, quite honestly, I'm just going to dig right in if that's okay with you.
Please do.
Wonderful. So I am going to kick things off with what it looks like when you leave a dream career for a path of greater purpose. And I know that you have your own personal story to share, leaving a career in aviation for a greater purpose, such as the art of storytelling, which just, sounds so beautiful. I can't wait to hear more about it. I'm going to say that 90% of the audience or clients that come to me for guidance or coaching, most of them have a desire to shift careers. And I think, we're seeing this in the mainstream too. So many people are leaving career paths for something more creative, something that lights them up a little bit more. And I believe because this was true for me, and I didn't realize this until looking back, obviously, that my desire for more creativity in my career was sort of the catalyst to my own inner journey, my spiritual journey, I'll call it. I'm just going to put it out there. And for others, it might be having children, it might be a health scare, it might be getting a divorce. But no matter what that initial catalyst is, the inner journey towards deeper meaning and purpose, that's what you're truly being called to, because it's not out there. It's not in the career. It's not in the job. It's not in the romantic partnership, right? Um, it's already there within, waiting to be discovered. And I know you appreciate that sentiment. So I'm going to let you sort of interject here and tell us a little bit about your own journey.
Gosh, where to start? So many nuggets there that are so true, especially the one of, I quit a career to be an entrepreneur and try and figure that out. And it thrust me in a deep internal journey, an inner journey of growth to a degree that I couldn't have imagined in any other circumstance. And it's been a wild journey as a result of it. But I grew up with two dreams as a kid, or two passions, I should say. One was aviation. My grandfather was in the Royal Air Force, and so I heard stories of him growing up. And the second was being creative. And I was incredibly creative as a kid. All of these passions and creating worlds and stories with Lego or art or any of the good stuff. And over the course of my teenage years, it started to dissipate. It just started to disappear for a multitude of reasons, which I'm learning and actually healing through now. But I took the more sensible step coming out of school and went and chose the career in aviation. Went through my whole training, and 1 month into getting into the right-hand seat of the Airbus, like my dream, absolutely my dream. Coming back from Spain, I was based in Italy. The sun was setting. I was eating my dinner. The shadow of the earth was rising ahead, beautiful. And this voice said to me from somewhere, "This isn't it." 1 month into taking such a leap, and it was very clear. And it took me about 6 or 7 years to actually leave aviation. And my mother was the one that supported me in actually taking that first step into aviation. And she was the first person to support me when I told her that I was thinking of leaving aviation. And she's like, "Do it. Absolutely. Go follow whatever this passion is." And I think I had a lot of the captains that I flew with question me as to like, "What are you doing?" But I knew that there was this calling, like this inner purpose that wasn't being served when I just closed the flight deck door and I just pressed some buttons for a day and then I went home and then the next day I just did it again. And at the time I didn't know what that calling was. And over the, kept turning a little bit back into creativity, I came across storytelling and film. I was always interested in photography and just fell in love with the concept of telling someone's story. And what I've learned over the course of this journey is that at the very beginning, the stories were okay. But as I've gone on my own journey and I've healed more and I've been able to create more capacity in my life for myself and my growth, in turn, I'm able to hold space better for others to tell the story deeper and in a more authentic way. And I've just watched this beautiful journey of just like this inner healing that has gotten me to the place now where we can tell the stories that we do.
I totally appreciate everything you're saying, and I can totally relate to that. When I was feeling called to leave my job in corporate, I had my interior design studio was a side hustle, and for 2, maybe probably going on 3 years, I was just grinding away in my side hustle. I wanted to leave my job. I wanted to leave my job. And I was the breadwinner. I held the insurance. My husband was the stay-at-home father for quite a few years, and, there was this, "How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna leave this career?" There's this fear there. Um, I eventually did it, was super proud of myself, and was, like, running on a high, and then about a month later, I was like, "I don't know if I wanna do interior design anymore." Do you know how afraid I was to tell my husband? But like your mother, he was my biggest supporter, and he knew that, whatever was next, it was gonna work its way out, and it did, and it is, and you're so right about when we continue working on ourself, and the driving force behind that is finding that creative essence within, we can hold space for others, and so I think, when we talk about the journey, the inner transformation, I know you appreciate this too. It's already there, right? It's just waiting for us to find it. But we're always looking externally, always. We're always looking to other people and situations for validations, and that's not the way.
Or have something force you to find it internally, i.e. business. When things don't go the way you plan them to, it just shines this big, great mirror in your face and forces you to look within. And it's not been an easy path. Like I quit a career in aviation and I was very good at being a pilot. I wasn't very good at being an entrepreneur. I read one book called Sell Like Crazy. I'm like, it's easy. It's so easy. We're going to ace this. We're going to be millionaires within our first 6 months. All of these things. Like we went in with such bold goals and we got a little bit lost along the way. I think my wife is in business with me as well. And she was the brave one too when I said, like, let's quit our jobs and tomorrow let's just like lean into this. But it's been a journey of, okay, getting lost in almost like other people's energies, in them asking like, do you do these services? Do you do these things? And kind of like drifting with it, but it keeps coming back. It's almost like cyclical. Probably like every year at the same time, it comes back to be there like, but are you creating? Are you creating from the heart? What are you bringing here? Are you serving a greater purpose? And business, yeah, I play some funny games. When you quit your career for purpose, and then when you find yourself 6 to 1 year later not doing that purpose, it makes sure that you bring it back, and it
Yeah.
makes sure that you do the work necessary to get to a place where you can serve in that way. And it's definitely been that journey for us.
Yeah. I think that that's the word purpose. Everybody wants to find their purpose. And, for me, eh, as a coach, I think my personal experience with healing, uncovering my truth, that has allowed me to sort of find this like well within. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's almost like I've tapped into something that I've never really experienced before. And it reveals itself in different ways. It might be confidence, it might be creativity, it might, like right now, my writing is just like, it's just pouring out of me. And, I feel like I'm moving through my business in so many easeful ways, you know what I mean? Where before it just felt so like I was just flying by the seat of my pants and I didn't know what I was doing. And I'm asking this person for advice and I need this coach now. But when I think we can align our deeper truths with our purpose in career or whatever passionate pursuits we have, you do tap into something that is unimaginable to some people. You'll get responses like, "How are you doing all that?" Or, and even me, I'll ask myself, "How am I doing all of this?"
Mm.
But there's like no sense of burnout. There's no sense of stress. It's just easy. And for once, I feel like I've tapped into the flow, you know? So I'm curious if you share that now that you're doing your work with impact,
Mhm.
you're finding that to be true as well.
I I I love that. Part of me is like, teach me how. um, Now, yes, actually, it's the last 6 months. The first few years was definitely just a learning curve of how do I market? How do I even create offers? How do I do these things? And just going out and testing and trying to figure out the things that I didn't know before. And yes, asking a lot of people for advice or hiring contractors to help us, and it never quite worked. And all of these different aspects. And it gets to a point now where I've developed enough of the business acumen and understanding through our own trials and working with our clients and so on, that then it almost allowed me to relax into the creativity. And these last few months has definitely been that of, I think there's like an element of self-worth that has been deeply embedded in my own journey of not seeing myself worthy to do the thing that I truly wanted to do over the last few years. And then as I've grown self-worth through my practices, it gets to a place where I can actually take action on them, which to me means not burning out, not hustling, not pushing myself, actually taking a step back. And when I have in the last few months, oh, it's so easy. I know the next steps. Like, I don't need the consultant to tell me what's next because I just like, I know because I took like at least a day just to listen.
Mhm.
Whereas in the past, it was so easy to get sucked up in that. Like, I have to move forward. I have to keep improving and changing. And now, and it worked. Like, don't get me wrong, like it's worked for its own benefit. But now it's more like, how do we just step in from a creative, providing different energy, and yeah, it's definitely been a worth journey of not seeing myself of even worthy enough to have that kind of lifestyle until this moment where I just went, yes, you are, and you can, and it's possible.
Yes,
And things magically change when that happens.
it is. And self-worth is such a big, ginormous like energy that I think everybody listening can feel that about something in their life where they just never felt worthy enough to go for it in whatever it is. Um, I'd like to segue just a little bit into Impact, which is your company that you run with your wife, Lila. And you create cinematic storytelling for brands, wellness brands. And you say that character-driven stories connect better than normal content.
Mm,
It's very juicy, and I want to hear your take on this. You could explain more.
for sure. So character driven is a term that I didn't conceptualize, but it came through the other day, merely just like 2 weeks ago, in how to describe that which we do. And I don't know how I couldn't see it for the last few years because it's just what we do. But there's storytelling is such a buzzword. It's You're on LinkedIn, everyone seems to be a storyteller. You go on any platform, they say brand storytelling is it. You need to do it. Everyone needs to do storytelling. It's super powerful, but not many people really fully get it or fully comprehend it. And to me, that just states like better marketing, you know, do better branding. Whereas our perspective of it is a story as we know it through film or through books is a character asking a question and going on a journey to subsequently answer that question. Any good book has that very basic arc. And it's the arc that we get sucked into. It's the character's pursuit of something that we get sucked into. It's their overcoming of the conflict in their life and the desire that subsequently came from it that we get sucked into. It's called narrative transportation. And so when we can leverage such a tool, we are, in a sense, able to ethically persuade anyone who's watching it. We're able to craft narratives that are real, that are true, that is someone's true story. Because we all have these moments in our life of conflict, of things that we need to overcome, of things that were great, some things were bad. And that's what makes life juicy, in a sense, to use your word. That's what we're all here for. We listen to podcasts because we love to hear other people's stories of overcoming and how they did it. And so to us, there's so much noise out there. There's so much noise and content. There's so many ads. There's so many people trying to get your attention and doing whatever it takes to do so. There are so many wild offers out there of we'll do X, Y, and Z in a short amount of time. And if you don't get it, we don't get paid. Like all of this, it's just a lot of content and a lot of noise. And we're all hyperstimulated in some way. Our nervous systems all need just like a little bit of a relaxing moment, and storytelling to us is that. It's not noisy. It's not throwing something in your face. It's showing someone's reality and their truth, and then letting you, the viewer, decide whether you agree with it or whether you come along with it. And so for us, we genuinely believe that there's truly like a well-told story has the power to change the world. You can only look at history. I haven't read the Bible, but the Bible is a great example of that. It is a story and it has captivated millions. And so if within your brand you start tapping into storytelling, you start tapping into this authentic nature that is true to you, that isn't this facade, that isn't this, oh, I have to be a certain way for my brand. It's just me.
It's beautiful because I think that, again, looking out externally when you don't have that quiet inner strength, when you're not listening from within and you're constantly looking outward, you're not exuding that confidence, you're not sure if you're doing anything right. And it is overwhelming. We are overstimulated. We are overwhelmed. There's so much out there that we could be grasping at. And taking that pause, I think for me was huge after I sort of determined I wasn't sure if I wanted to pursue interior design anymore, which I am in some capacity, but it has really evolved into a completely different but similar pathway for me. Um, Shortly after, we picked up and moved out of state. And I was very grateful that it was due to my husband's work and he could support us. And I was given the gift of like 11 months of just sit and figure it out. There was a little bit of stress because I had always worked, 2 jobs since I was 16. I was just that kind of personality. I love working. I mean, I even said to my husband last night, like, I love what I'm working on right now. Like, if I didn't have to be a mom and a wife, like, I would be working all day, which sounds so ridiculous and like kind of like cringy, but at the same time, like I'm really like in a place with my business that it's that kind of excitement. Um, but I was given that gift of having some quiet space to just listen and go within. And I, I shut out social media. I got off certain platforms. And so I really encourage people to do that, whether you're in a business or not, like you're just, wanting to improve your life and figure it out, whatever it is, because so many of us we're looking for a coach or someone to tell us what. But one of the things I like to do with clients is really teach them about their own intuitive guidance, because that becomes your best friend, that becomes your guiding light, and you don't need all of the other stuff that's out there. So I love that. I also love how you say that storytelling is a brand's greatest differentiator. It's the one thing that your competitors can't copy. And I love hearing that because it lands just so deeply, right? Um, it's really impactful because, like, as you said, we live in a content created world. It's almost like we lose a little bit of ourselves and the reality that's around us. We're always comparing ourselves, and we all know that's probably not very healthy. Um, but I think we've all done that to a degree, and there's certainly no shame there either. But again, it's because we don't trust what we're doing, right? We
Mm,
don't trust ourselves. I think that self-confidence stems from self-trust. Um, so I know that this can be rectified again by honoring that intuitive self more, becoming our own inner guru. Tell me more about how um, your own story sets you apart in an authentic way.
mm. Great question. I think what I enjoy about my story and how it lands with people, and I oftentimes tell it in my initial prospect calls with potential clients, and I just see their eyes go like, "Whoa, really?" Is that like I did the shiny object thing? I did the thing that got me stripes on my shoulder and got me to wear the uniform and made me feel good and walk through the terminal with my crew and my bag, catch me if you can style. Like I did that, and I figured it out. Figured out it wasn't it. Um, I've been a long term follower of like Russell Brand for a while, and he went through the fame, and like his big thing is like I did it. Like I did the glitz and glam. It's not all of that. And I resonate with that. It's like I was attracted to the status and the perception of others and turned it into a career and then figured out, no, that wasn't particularly healthy. Surely there's something more. Surely there's something more to this life than what I'm doing. And yeah, it made it sound like I just took the leap. It took time. Like it took a bit of time. And even in the first few years of business, just like, what is going on? But um, I if I was to look back, that like grit and determination, like I love working too. I've gotten to a place where I really enjoy creating things within the business and creating our own reality and creating something that wasn't there before. And so when I tell that story to our clients, it's like, oh, wow. Like, yes, you didn't just go and study film production. You didn't just go to film school or take that traditional path, whatever it may be. It's like you have some life experience that now you're bringing into this. And what I love when we work with potential prospects or clients is uncovering that uniqueness within them. Like, what is it about your past lives? We don't need to get into that, but this lifetime that that makes you unique. Like what is that unique flavor? Let's take design. Every interior designer looks and sounds the same, but what is it that you bring in that no one else does, and why? Where did that come from? For me, aviation has been a big part of my story because I bring in that systems and SOP thinking, very methodical, procedural, and so on. And so that influences our storytelling. But my healing journey also influences our storytelling. And so that lights me up to be able to almost uncover that for someone and be like, wow, that's a part of me that I like almost forgot. But thank you. That is what drives me. And thank you for giving me permission to step into that. And because I've been on that journey, it allows me almost like a coach consultant to shine the light for someone else to step into it or to realize that within themselves.
Beautiful. I love the way you stated it because it's so true. When we want something, we're sort of like, okay, want it, got it, on to the next. And we sort of forget to remember what we went through to get there, and I really try to be intentional when I create a new service or a product and I book that first client to really like timestamp that in my head and really witness myself and cheer myself on because I think that we tend to forget to do that. It's just like, okay, next, you had mentioned before we started recording the law of attraction, immediately I thought of Abraham Hicks and she's like, what does she say? There's things to keep you wanting for the next 40 lifetimes. Like you're never going to like not want to keep stepping into something new, but we forget how fearful we are right before that. And then when it happens, we also forget to just, give ourselves a pat on the back, right? And so I love that you're doing that for your clients because yeah, they do. You forget. You forget all that you've been through and all that you strived for. And here it is.
Yeah. And it's so, especially in America, I think it's very fast paced. Coming from like the UK and living in Italy as well, where it was like you could call a friend up and say, "Hey, do you want to get like aperitivo tonight?" and just like catch up. In America, it's like, "Do you have time 4 weeks ahead to maybe have a 30-minute call at like 11:30 in the morning when no one really is connecting their time other than for prospecting calls?" And so it's like there's just this sort of fast-paced grind, and we need that slowness. We need that opportunity to reflect and be like, "Wow, like it's pretty cool this journey," and like, "Oh wow, that milestone just happened. Nice," without like rushing into the next step.
Yeah. That's beautiful and kind of embarrassing as Americans. It's so true. I mean, even just really close friends, it's like, hey, do you have time in the next 2 weeks? Can we put something on the calendar? Like we sound like so robotic. Yeah. But no, you're right. We need to just calm down, create some space in our lives for each other and ourselves,
Mhm.
especially.
Uh,
So tell me a little bit more about impact. I know that you appreciate working with wellness brands, interior designers. I'm curious what led you into that pathway with those industries.
it's what we began with in Italy, and then I found a way to creatively sabotage it time and time again. Truth be told, it's been a journey. We started in Italy making films for like the hospitality sector, Michelin star restaurants. Like it's very like culture and like the design culture in Italy is huge, and it just felt natural. And then we moved to Boulder, Colorado, where there isn't Gucci, it's Patagonia and Birkenstocks. And we got sucked up in, yeah, just exploring the breadth of who we could work with. And we ended up in sustainability and clean tech and working with companies we didn't really want to work with, honestly, where there wasn't too much heart and soul. And it was just over a year and a half ago that I was meeting with a friend who worked at National Renewable Energy Labs in Colorado. And she said, "Oh, the sustainability issue isn't like a tech issue, it's a psychological issue." And like deep down, I knew that, but it's almost like I couldn't see it in that moment of time. And just this light bulb went off. It's like, oh, yeah, that's so true. Like, we're damaging the planet for not tech reasons or even like capitalistic reasons. It's more just like we're not very whole and healed within ourselves. And so subsequently, we spew our trauma out onto the world and damage it in many ways. And over the course of a weekend, I completely rewrote our strategy. And the next Monday, we were focusing on a different niche. And because I realized that in that moment, it's like, oh, actually, design influences how we feel and interact, and wellness and pursuing that influences how we I've seen it within myself, like when we talked about it before, but the when I'm more whole within myself and I increase my capacity to feel and my capacity for love, then I in turn am in better, like I'm better as a servant in a sense, or my purpose is stronger because I have more capacity to hold that space for others. And yeah, great design does that. You go into a space and you're like I feel different. Why? Well, it's been designed that way. And I think there's a movement toward the wellness design sector is now the fastest growing sector in the built environment, and for good reasons. And so it was just a return to what we were doing before, really. We started with hospitality and a focus on design, and we returned to it, but now with a bit more I'm a bit more savvy from a business standpoint and can help our clients much better. And um, the connection to wellness through design and hospitality is what we focus on. So we work with designers, architects, but also with hospitality brands and hotels. But those that are kind of pushing the boundaries of what's possible for healing and for in turn creating community and creating spaces that heal.
Mm. Well, you've touched a soft spot for me there, and you're so right. I see a lot of just everyday people wanting more of a design enhanced home that isn't just a Pinterest board. I use that reference a lot, not to, dog Pinterest because it's a great tool. But again, it's that external desire for something that we don't have. And that's really what I try to do with Mind Body Home is just encourage people to see their environment. That has a very strong impact on your well-being, your holistic view of the world. And, people are craving that now. And I think COVID was the biggest catalyst for that, being forced to be in our home and realizing how our homes are not supporting us in any way. They're probably adding to our stress and our overwhelm. So really sort of using the home or any environment as sort of this playground for exploration, right? And your own transformation. A lot of interior designers are shifting themselves, not just to fill the need of an industry, but also for themselves. And that's very true for me. It's the reason why did I started moving away from doing design in the traditional sense. I really wanted people to see how the mind and the physical body and the physical environment really all intersect to give you this more holistic view of your life and align you more with your inner spirit. That's really the framework that I'm trying to lead by now. And I think people are getting it. People are getting that their spaces have like the physical body feels.
Mhm.
If you can find that in a space as well.
Mm. Yeah, we'll see how I call it Toy Town in America when you drive past these new development lots where it's just like three styles of homes just built right next to each other, 2 meters apart. Like, and I'm curious whether over the course of time that may change and shift as well in terms of how we even build communities in the States. But yeah, it starts with the home, and I feel that there's an unfortunate like lack mentality in the design sector with architects and designers of, oh, maybe like the scarcity of there isn't too much out there. And so what we've seen is so many designers and architects, they kind of just like mold into what their client at that moment of time wants versus saying, again, like the story, like these are my values. This is how I see the world changing. This is how I see even me being able to impact in my own small way and subsequently market myself out there so that I attract the right clients. I'm not shaped by the clients that are just coming to me that I have to say yes to. And it's this interesting dynamic that if you look at any other industry, majority of companies are like, this is us, this is what we're going to do. Whereas in the design sector, it's like, hey, I do design, you want to come and you kind of tell me what you want. And if we can just change that slightly to being able to have a vision and being able to take it out there into the world, that's when, designers and architects and such, they can start to educate their clients on why it is important, and really change the status quo in that way.
Love that. Robert, I want to ask you before we wrap up, um, if you were to share with our audience, if the audience was a prospect or a client, how would you speak to them? How would you ask them to draw their own inner story out of themselves? in a way that impacts their own life and the lives of others.
Higher impact. We'll help draw it out for you. How we navigate doing that for our clients comes through conversation and essentially creating a space for what would be inner reflection, but it's outer because we're asking the questions and guiding them through that process. And for me in my own personal journey, it's just been that inner reflection. Genuinely, my biggest insights come from meditation. My biggest insights come from sitting still. And I can call myself out when I sit still of all the things that I'm not doing or the path that I'm not taking or the purpose that I'm hiding away from. And so it isn't, business related. Yes, we have questions that are like business related that we would run in a facilitated way. But the advice that I would give is really just to sit still, because in those moments I have found that I have always returned to purpose, and I've always found the energy with which to then take that out into the world with confidence versus hiding away. And I don't feel that we do it enough. I don't feel that we sit still enough. And it's that intuitive guidance that you mentioned at the beginning. Like, we all have it, but we've just all lost it. Like, we've all lost that connection to it. And when we start to listen to it, that's when truly like great things can happen in our own lives and subsequently the world.
Beautiful. Thank you, Robert. What a breath of fresh air. I enjoyed having you here on the podcast today. And I'm so grateful that you left aviation, because look at you now. You're speaking so, enthusiastically about creative pursuits and finding the well within. And you're making an impact. No pun, maybe a little bit of a pun intended.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. To learn more about Robert and Impact Cinematic Storytelling, visit their website at impact.eco. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. I have one more guest for you later this month, so be sure you're subscribed and following the Mind Body Home podcast wherever you get your podcasts. If you prefer the video version, you can also subscribe on YouTube. Links to everything, as always, is in the show notes. Reviews of the podcast is how I expand my reach. If you enjoyed this or any episode, a positive review is greatly appreciated. Until next time, my friends, so much love and gratitude.